In this review I'll be taking a look at Paul Verhoeven's 1992 murder mystery sex thriller Basic Instinct, and it is quite a sensational 4K transfer. Basic Instinct has an approximate aspect ratio of 2.40 to 1, and because of the extreme close-ups in this, particularly during the opening sequences, I rather expected that when I looked this up it would have been a Super 35 shoot with the top and bottom cropped a bit and the optical enlargement done for an anamorphic 35mm release, but it seems that this was actually shot anamorphic 35mm, so it perhaps illustrates how good the Panavision anamorphic lenses have become by 1992, as there is none of the obvious CinemaScope mumps that we would have expected with earlier lenses, where the actors and actresses' faces would have been slightly fatter than they really were. So Panavision really had developed the scope process phenomenally well, and this is one of the end results. The original sound, as heard in cinemas, was Dolby Stereo Spectral Recording SR, which does mean that the sound on here, the digital theatre system sound, is not exactly as it would have been heard in cinemas, but I thought it was incredibly good, particularly the disco sequence where the sound is all enveloping, really loud, makes you want to get up and have a quick dance, but you're watching a film, no time for frolicking like that. You've got to concentrate, and this is one film that you do really have to concentrate on. It's a bit Hitchcockian. I think it's influenced by Hitchcock's Vertigo, shot in the same city, San Francisco. Does have a similar look, so I think Paul Verhoeven was influenced by that, and in fact he does confirm that a little in the extras on here. Now all the extras are actually included on the 4K disc, so the two Blu-rays, one with the film and a few extras, and then a special features Blu-ray, you don't really need either of those because they are all included on the 4K. This was the biggest film of 1992. It had an estimated budget of $49 million and grossed at the worldwide box office $353 million, so a massive success for the production company Carolco, and you may recognise that name from films such as Terminator 2, Rambo 2, Cliffhanger and quite a few other blockbusters, but unfortunately they had quite a few failures too, and that ultimately ended in their demise. The last big production they undertook that was a flop was Cutthroat Island with Jeane, directed by Rennie Harlin, and I actually really like that film. How ironic that a few years later Disney would do their own interpretation of a pirate film, and that would be a massive success. Now, my first impression of the colour grading on the 4K was that it was a bit off. It's rather reminiscent of the colour grade we got on the 4K release of Cliffhanger over here, where I reported that I thought there was too much green in the overall bias. But it seems that looking at the extra features, the archive extra featurettes on here, where they show extracts from the movie back then, when they were shot 1991, 1992, the colour grade does look the same on that. So it's quite likely that this was how the film looked in cinemas. So even though there were occasions where I was looking at the actors and actresses, and particularly Sharon Stone, and thinking, well, her pearly whites are not pearly white, I don't think she'd be very happy with that. It's quite likely this was how it was graded at the time, and it's mainly in the indoor and the dark sequences, the night sequences, where I got this impression, but the outdoor scenes, some of those do look absolutely sensational. Now the picture on this is really sharp. It must have come from the original camera negative, because I don't think it would be possible to get quite that clarity from the interpositive or the internegative, and certainly not from a master print or a general release print. So this is an original camera negative transfer, and it really is sharp. It belies the fact really that it's an original 35mm shoot, but it's not up there with a 65mm for 70mm release, so don't be fooled that it's as good as that. But this is up there with the best of them, Jaws and Apocalypse Now, and possibly better than all of them. I think the colour grading in Jaws, because it's predominantly all outdoors, still means that that one has the edge. But put the two side by side and I may change my mind, but that just confirms I think this is one of the best 35mm transfers we're going to see. The basic premise is that Sharon Stone plays a successful author of murder mysteries, and someone seems to be suddenly acting out some of those murder mysteries for real. Michael Douglas is the detective tasked with solving it all, and it's all helped along by the most fabulous Jerry Goldsmith score. As the film went on, it became increasingly evident that there was film grain visible, and it was really in the faces. It was some of the foreheads of the main cast actors. You could see that their foreheads seemed to be on the move a bit, and it was the film grain, and I think it was the scan of the film, because they scan these films now, but that does exacerbate film grain, and that was a fact confirmed in the extras of The Sting, when the Universal people tasked with that spoke about transferring via scanning, how it exacerbates film grain, but also the grade of this, darkening down things so much as they did to get the colours just as they wanted them, to give that sort of surreal Hitchcockian look. It really did seem to exacerbate the film grain in such areas as faces. But I looked at it on our television and it really wasn't evident on there, so unless you've got the most enormous set, 7 or 8 feet wide, then you're probably not going to notice this. But in here, projected on about a 9 foot wide image, it really did become a bit obvious. So that's perhaps something to bear in mind if you're one of those that really does not like the appearance of film grain on any of your discs. Another thing is perhaps the steamy sex sequences. There are 4 or 5 of them that really are quite graphic at times, and they're bound to offend some, as will the bad language at times. So it's not quite Hitchcock as we knew him, but you can definitely see the influence there, and particularly, as I said, Vertigo. Other than that, this is an exceptional 4K disc. The Blu-ray is almost as good, and doing a direct comparison, putting one disc in then the other, it appears to me like some scenes on the Blu-ray look better than the 4K and vice versa. So it would be nice if we could do a mix of the two, but they do tend to look different when you do those quick switches. So overall, this is an excellent 4K disc. It's not a film for everyone. It's another film noir with a femme fatale, and she has got to be the ultimate femme fatale. Wouldn't want to meet this one with a risk to your life, that's for sure. But I would recommend it, but bear in mind, steamy sex sequences, bad language, not going to be for everyone. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing, so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating content like this in the future. Until the next video, bye bye for now.